Welcome back to the EFA podcast. I'm Drew. I'm here with Matthias.
Hello.
Today we're going to do our 2021 season predictions for the NFL. Preseason is 1 week away as from the day that we're recording this. So yeah, football is coming back. Finally, took it was a long 4 months, but it's finally coming back.
Yeah, it's nice to know we're finishing off the last month without football for a while.
Yeah. So yeah, we're pretty much. If you listen to the one last year, we're gonna do the same thing. Um, with a little bit of a twist on it. So we're gonna start with the playoff teams, and we'll give you the records and break down on all those. We'll then circle back around and do the non-playoff teams and talk about those. Then we'll do two surprising teams from each conference, and then we'll do our Super Bowl prediction. So, yeah, I mean, we can just get right on into it, and we'll start with the AFC. And for the seventh seed, for me, I have the Raiders, and this is a shocking one because this is a team that, I know, I remember when we did our recap of the last season's episode. I had the Bengals in the playoffs as the 5 seed or something, 6 seed, and I think the Raiders, that's gonna be my I messed up team. But I mean
Yeah, I
I
mean,
have them at 10-7, and maybe they could shock some people, but I mean they pretty much gave up their entire offensive line and then replaced it with Alex Leatherwood in the draft, which at 17 was not great, but I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I'm hoping
I,
that the Raiders do something this year.
I just don't think that if it was still 16 games, I think they'd be basically 500 probably. But I see them doing a little better, a little worse, like 9-8 or 8-9, like that. That's kind of the range I have them in. Um, Well, I'm trying to look for. Yeah. I have them at 8-9. I I just don't think that they like. Obviously, the offensive line is probably, if anything, going to be worse than last year. Um, and I know they competed for a playoff spot, for a decent amount of the year. But I don't think Derek Carr is going to have to do a lot, and I don't really know if maybe a huge year from Henry Ruggs could put them ahead or something. But their defense also hasn't had enough improvement, in my opinion. So I just don't think that they'll be able to squeak into a playoff spot and be that competitive.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I yeah, I mean I did these predictions 2-3 weeks ago, when the schedule came out. So I mean, not yeah. I mean, the defense, you said there wasn't really that much improvement, and again, they lost pretty much their entire offensive line. So you never know
Yeah,
what's gonna happen in the NFL, and the Raiders could be one of those shocking teams that no one expects to see in the playoffs, but there they are. Like
yeah, yeah. I think that they could possibly make it close. But
yeah,
my seven is the Titans, who I have at 10-7. Um, I think that they'll probably be a pretty similar team to last year, except for maybe people will start to figure out how to play them. Yeah, obviously throwing Julio in there makes it even more difficult, because now you have to make doubly sure that the ground and pass game doesn't get going. But obviously they drafted Caleb Farley. You know, rookie corners don't really have a immediate effect a lot of time, but I think that they can definitely I think that they'll probably stay around the same level as last year, and I think they went 10-6 last year, right?
Uh, roughly around there, yeah. 10-6,
Yeah,
11 and
yeah,
5.
yeah. So I think they'll just be kind of around the same level. I don't know if Julio and like their draftees are really enough to bump them up like a full game at all. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go too in depth on the Titans because I do have them later on in the playoff picture. But I will say that like that Julio Jones addition is going to be scary, especially because now that opens up so much more you can do with AJ Brown, and if it doesn't like really all it's if Julio Jones isn't doing well, at least he's probably going to be double covered, which leaves room for AJ Brown to pretty much rack up the stats. So
yeah.
I mean that offense is just got even scarier than it was last year. But my six is the Patriots. I have them at 10-7, and a lot of people didn't like what they did in free agency, but I did. I liked. I mean, Johnny Smith I liked because he was with the Titans last year. Like that addition. Hunter Henry was a bit of a like I don't really see. I mean, we have run two tight end formations in the past with Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, and then like we had Aaron Hernandez and Gronk. Gronk we had the other guy Tim Wright I want to say like literally 1 year came out of nowhere and was pretty good. We had Gronk and Martellus Bennett, but so that was like a bit of a I wasn't too happy about that one, but I mean, hopefully that works out. You see, we got Al Galore, uh, Kendrick Bourne, and then the defense we got Jalen Mills and Matt Judon. So I mean, I really just think we pretty much improved both the offense and the defense, and hopefully Cam can. I'm assuming Cam's going to start week 1. Hopefully, like with now that he has some sort of weapons, he can hopefully do some damage there. And if not, maybe Mac Jones comes in a few weeks in and lights it up. But I mean, I think 10-7 is fair. Like 10-7, 9-8 is like a fair prediction for the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree. I have them right at 9-8, which for me misses the playoffs. But I just think that I know you and Hayden specifically didn't like their draft because y'all be Mac Jones haters. But as the person who's just kind of impartial on Mac Jones, I like their draft. I like what they did and like positions they picked. I think that, I think that especially with free agency, they're definitely going to improve a lot this year. And Cam claims to be healthy for the first time in a while, so maybe he'll play a lot better too. So I think just with all the factors, and I think they're hopefully over the fact, that like Tom Brady is not theirs anymore, if you know what I mean. So I just think that they'll they'll definitely improve to that, like around that level.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So five, the fifth spot, the fifth and
Whoa, whoa, whoa! I didn't say six.
yes, you did.
My
You started with six, didn't you?
No, I started with seven. Seven
Oh,
was Titans for me.
right.
Six for me is the Chargers. I have the Chargers at 10-7. Um, I think that with Justin Herbert's growth and the new head coaching staff that they brought in, um, and the fact that they're getting back people from injury that they had like throughout last year, I just think that they're another team who's probably going to make a big jump. Also, the fact that they will hopefully be able to squeak out on the other end of a lot of those close games that they were like notorious for losing last year. So I just think that overall, I think they could possibly be one of like the most explosive teams in the NFL. But yeah, so that's why I have my six.
Yeah, I have the Chargers at 9-8. I have them just missing the playoffs. Um, and I was a big fan of them last year. Justin Herbert looked really good. He won rookie of the offensive rookie of the year. Um, I just I mean Herbert's a dark horse MVP candidate for this year. I mean, I don't know. I just don't expect that same I think he's still gonna be good. I think he's still gonna be a good quarterback this year. I just don't think he's gonna be as good as he was last year. He broke so many of the rookie records last year, and I just don't expect him to do as much damage this year.
I think he's just going to have higher expectations on him this year. I think he'll still be really good, but with the higher expectations, like, it's a lot easier to disappoint when you're not just a rookie QB.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Now I can move on to five. I have the
Yeah.
Ravens at 10-7 in the last wild card spot, and I think the AFC North is going to be another battle this year. Obviously, last year the Steelers won it, and that was you know what they went 12. They finished 12-4, right? They lost like four of the last five games.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so.
yeah. And that was just like that was you saw how fraudulent that they were because they were like 11-0, 12-0, something like that. And then they lost to the football team, they lost to the Bengals. Um and then they lost to the Browns and the Bills. Um yeah, it was just I think that's going to be another battle. Like Steelers, I don't think they're going to be as good this year. I think the Ravens um they finally gave Lamar somewhat of a receiving core with it was Bateman, right? They took Bateman
Yeah.
and added Sammy Watkins in free agency. Um yeah. So now that the Ravens have somewhat of a passing attack now, I think it's going to be a lot similar to the Titans. Like it's going to be a lot harder to actually defend what their like their style of play because you have the running threat on the ground with Lamar, and now you have those receiving threats in Bateman and Watkins and Marquise Brown. So I mean the defense is still really good. Marlon Humphrey is still hopefully. I mean this year he's hopefully going to be just as good with those um, peanut punches that he has. So I expect the Ravens to do so. I expect Lamar, and if in the playoffs, I hope he can do something and get kind of that monkey off his back of not being able to win a playoff game or not even although we did that last year, but not being able to advance make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah. So I agree that the AFC North is going to be like a battle, but I really just think it's going to be between the Browns and the Ravens. But I have the Browns at at 12-5, but just because even though their offseason was just like it was so good, it was so perfect, just with drafting and free agency. I still think that the Ravens might have the edge on them, mostly like because of their culture. But I think that the Browns will still like a lot of people have them doing really well, and I think that they will be able to meet those expectations this year. They met them last year, but before that, they might have disappointed a little bit. But I think you could see maybe even a little bit more growth from Baker Mayfield, and OBJ is back. I just think they'll be firmly cemented in a playoff spot when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm just gonna move right on to four because my four is the Browns at 11-6. I think they're gonna kind of stick around that how they were last year, like that 11-6, uh, like like 10, 11, 12 win range in that area. Um, you said like their offseason was insane, definitely the best one from this year. Um, the draft was really good. They got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in the second round. Like, I expected him to be like a top 15 pick, and they got him in the second round. So that was probably my biggest steal the entire draft. And like you mentioned it, you got Odell coming back. Um, Miles Garrett's looking, you know, he's as good as ever. They got Jadavian Clowney on the other side, so that defense is really good. And then it was John Johnson they got too, right, from LA.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like that defense is looking scary, and obviously you got Nick Chubb running the ball, and hopefully we see that step up from Baker this year, and he can prove to be an elite quarterback. And last season wasn't just a fluke. So yeah, I mean I do expect the Browns. I think the Browns can win the division. I do agree that the Ravens, that's the winning culture over there. Like they've been doing it for a lot longer. Like the Browns ever like they got Baker what 3 years ago, and like they've been winning for like not even 2 years at this point. Like, they've got the 0-16 season a few years back, and now they're finally starting to get this winning culture that most of these other playoff teams already have. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll move to my four now. I have the Colts at 10-7. Um, I think that Carson Wentz probably not going to go fully back to his 2017 form, but I think that the Colts are good enough that even if you get like, pretty good Carson Wentz, not like MVP Carson Wentz, but if you get pretty good Carson Wentz out of him, I think that they can make it to the playoffs. I don't know about a playoff run, but I think that this is like a good range for them. I went back and forth between them and the Titans just because obviously the Titans are going to be dangerous, but I might have overrated the Colts a little bit, but I just think that their O line is still going to be good, even though Costanza retired, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Even though Costanza retired, their O line's still going to be good. Jonathan Taylor is was looking like he was breaking out during the postseason. Um, Obviously, their defense is going to be great with DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard and everyone else they have. And I just think that their overall talent will be able to get them like pretty far. But then you add in the wild card that Carson Wentz is right now, and I really just don't know how good they're going to be. But assuming he can be at least decent, this is about where I'd put them.
Yeah, I have the Colts missing the playoffs actually. Just barely. They're just on like that outside, like in the hunt area. I just don't think Carson Wentz. Like I think Carson Wentz. I think he's gonna be back. I think he's gonna be like. I think it'll be Carson Wentz. I don't think he's gonna be throwing interceptions all over the place. But I also don't think he's gonna be like a step up from what Philip Rivers was. And the AFC, like we talked about it last year, like it is so good. Like there's so many teams that are going to be like all over, like just like the Chiefs, Bills, Titans, like all those teams are all like I get like they'll be like the three-headed monster, I guess you'd call it. And I just don't think Carson Wentz is going to be able to overcome them, the like those teams like that. And I mean, like yeah, like their schedule isn't great either. Like they have looking at it right now, they have the Seahawks, Rams, Titans, Dolphins, Ravens in the first 5 weeks, and those could all be losses. So, you know, I mean, I'm rooting for Carson Wentz, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be a huge step up from what Philip Rivers was last year.
I think he'll be a decent step up. Philip Rivers wasn't great last year. He wasn't bad, but you could tell he was just kind of slowing down.
Yeah. All right. So three. My three is the Titans. I have them at 12-5, and we kind of already talked about them a little bit already. But I mean, Julio. They had Julio Jones in uh, via trade, um, and that's just gonna be like, that's gonna that now you'd think the Titans as a rushing threat. Now they have the receiving threat in Julio and AJ Brown already. So just adding those two together, that's gonna be that is not gonna be a good sign for those defenses that have to face this team. Um, AJ Brown, like, hopefully, like, playing with an idol, right? Like, you saw all the recruiting videos he did with for Julio. Like, hopefully that encourages him and he gets even better than he was last year, and he can he can kind of uh I guess set himself into that top 7, top 5 receiver in the NFL. And like I mentioned earlier, like if Julio is most likely going to be double covered, one of them is going to be double covered. So I mean, either way, you're going to have someone making big plays for that offense. Whether it's AJ Brown, Julio, Derrick Henry, or I guess Ryan Tannehill making great throws. So yeah,
Yeah, Tannehill can run decently too.
yeah,
But I agree. And actually, just while we're here, I'm gonna swap the Colts and Titans. I'll put the Titans at 4 and the Colts at 7. I think that like they're just gonna. I don't think I was really thinking about how explosive they're going to be on offense. Like they're going to be very tough to deal with, and I mean their defense. I'm Bud Dupree. I like that signing. I know a lot of people thought it was a really big overpay. I think I saw that, but I still think that it's enough to make their edge better than it was. So I think that yeah, I think they probably fit more in my 4 better. So, but for my 3, I have the Ravens at 13-4. Um, yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, Bateman. They have Bateman and Watkins. I think that this is kind of Lamar Jackson's year. Like, as long as Bateman turns into the receiver we think he can be, um, I'm not sure there are a lot of excuses really for if he can't get like a pretty good passing year going. Like I guess the fact that Bateman is a rookie receiver though, think about it after that came out of my mouth. That like I guess you could always just say that Bateman is a rookie, so like you'll have next year when he's better or whatever. But I still think that you should see a jump in his throwing numbers, and maybe he could put together a season more like 2019. But I think that their team is so well put together. I just think that they're going to be contenders for a while, and I don't see why this year they would do badly. So
yeah. I agree. I mean, I already kind of talked about the Ravens, and I think if Rashad Bateman, like you said, can be the receiver we think he's going to be, then this team should be a Super Bowl contender. And Lamar Jackson, like he like you get all like the running back, like, oh, he should be a running back. Like, he's just as scary throwing the ball as he is running it. I mean, like, if he I still think, like, if you get him like an all pro receiver, Like, I think Lamar Jackson can be one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but I mean, he still doesn't have one of those. I mean, Sammy Watkins is another speed demon. So you got Sammy Watkins and Marquise Brown, and now you got Rashad Bateman. So hopefully one of those can turn into an All-Pro this season. Maybe you get one in free agency next season. Maybe you get one in the draft. But I mean, that's still Bateman and Watkins. Those are two huge steps up from what the receiving core was last year. So yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously they have Mark Andrews too.
Yep. You wanted to start with two?
All right, sure, yeah. I have the Bills at 2. I think it's pretty clear who the top 2 teams are for both of us, probably. But uh, yeah, I have them going 13-4. Really, the only way I could see them disappoint this season is if Josh Allen ends up randomly being a one-year wonder, which is not gonna. I'm very sure that is not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not
I
gonna happen.
Yeah, he has the skill set. I think Stephon Diggs really just kind of like unlocked it for him. And I think that duo obviously, and they got Gregory Rousseau in the draft, and just Ed Oliver could play better on defense this year. Like he might improve too. He's still pretty young. I think that they're just going to keep improving, and I think that Josh Allen and their coaching staff and just Stephon Diggs and basically everything they have going for them. I think that they're going to be right up there with the Chiefs for the first seed.
Yeah, and just because you said like we probably have the exact same top two, like yeah, it's gonna be the Bills and the Chiefs. I have the Bills at 12-5, Chiefs at 13-4, and I think it's gonna be very similar to like I think these two teams are gonna be the two we see battling. I think this is gonna be the new like Patriots Chiefs, Patriots Broncos type rivalry we'll have here with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I think they're gonna battle out in the playoffs as well. And I mean, hopefully, like I would love to see the Bills and Josh Allen win the Super Bowl. As much as I hate to say that, being a Patriots fan, but I mean, they were just so fun to watch last year. And like you said, like that defense, like Tre'Davious White, Ed Oliver, like that I feel like they can only get better. And Stephon Diggs really like I agree. I think he kind of brought everything together, and that entire organization is just that they're just it's just a good environment, I guess. Like based off those videos we see, like it just looks like a great place to play football if you're an athlete. And yeah, and then the Chiefs, obviously, you got Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill. Like they buffed that offensive line pretty big this offseason. And I don't think it's going to be any question who the top two teams are. Again, barring any like Josh Allen injury or like Patrick Mahomes injury. I think these two teams are going to be the top two in the league in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, we said this last year, but the Chiefs. I think as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are together, they're probably going to be the top of their division, like, or at least very
Yeah.
close to the top.
Yep.
And I'm still a little shocked they lost the Super Bowl. To be honest, obviously it wasn't really Mahomes' fault because, like, well, anyone who watched it can tell that he was just running around the entire time.
Yeah. No
But
offensive line. That's gonna
yeah,
like that
like
that hurt.
yeah. So I just think that now that they went out of their way to get some pieces, some better younger pieces on that offensive line. I think that like I don't really think they have all that many flaws, and right now is kind of the perfect time for them to make all those adjustments to the team and really push for titles before you have Mahomes' gigantic contract kick in for a while. So I just think that this is like this is obviously they should be trying to win every year, but this is one of the years that they should really be pushing for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. All right. So that's the AFC done. We'll come back. We'll come back around. We'll move to the non-playoff teams. We'll start with the NFC playoff teams. If you want to start with 7.
All right, my 7 is the Saints. I'm going 9-8. I was really debating what to do with them. Like their QB situation's a little funky, but they did pretty good with Taysom Hill starting last year. So I think that whether it be Taysom Hill or maybe Jameis Winston, who we haven't really seen play in a tiny bit. So you never know. Like maybe he has improved or something. But I just think that the Saints are definitely going to regress a bit. That's clear since Drew Brees retired, and I just think that you know I don't know what to expect from Michael Thomas. I think Alvin Kamara will be steady as ever, and then I think their defense will also keep steady. But they have like a couple pieces. I'm just not really sure what like a couple players. I don't really know how they're going to play. It could go good or bad, and that's why I just have them, right above 500 because I do think that as long as the QB play is at least solid, they can still be a good team.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go in on the Saints right now because I do have them later, but I have the Seahawks at 7. I have them going 10-7, and again, I think the NFC West is gonna be another insane. Like it's gonna be the division to watch this year. Like if you're looking to get into football, like watch any NFC West game, and it should, you'll be there. But yeah, the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks real. They got Dwayne Eskridge in the draft, so you got another target for Russell Wilson. Uh, like other than that, like I can't really think of like what happened in the offseason. You had those rumors that Russell Wilson wanted out because he was unhappy. Obviously, that um, didn't end up being what it was. Luckily for Seahawks fans, Matthias. Yeah. Jamal Adams, like they're still Jamal Adams is probably going to get an extension. Still hasn't gone through yet, but I think the Seahawks they're going to be kind of just on that brim of playoff like elimination. They're maybe get in and within like in week 16, week 17. Or I guess week 18 now cuz that's a thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just go into 6 because 6 I have the Seahawks too. I have them at 11-6. I like enjoy these last couple years. Maybe not last couple years, but I think the Seahawks are probably about to suck for a very long time, to be honest. I like with how we're doing. I think as soon as Russell Wilson like either starts to go, he starts to, even age just a little bit, or if he decides he wants out, I think we could be like bottom of the NFC, like very, very bad. Our defense is just not. We have like star power, but we're one of the least well-rounded teams in the NFL. If that makes sense. Like we had 3 picks this year, so obviously you can't do much for depth with that. And although I do like Dwayne Eskridge, I don't really know why we like it. I guess the wide receiver depth could be used, but I don't really know why it was a top priority for them with the 3 picks they had. And all I have to say, I guess, is Jamal Adams better resign because that'd be the dumbest waste of all time for 2 years of him for 2 first round picks. But I mean, yeah, overall, I think they'll still be good this year. Probably pretty similar to last year, where they're like, they have a with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Russell Wilson, they have like an explosive offense. But they once it comes postseason time, I don't think they're really going to be able to hang with a lot of other postseason teams. So yeah, like I said, I just kind of want to enjoy the years that we have coming up because I think we'll be decent for a little while and then plunge into a dark hole.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. Six. We already talked about them. We have the Saints at 10-7. I think kind of like again like right over 500. I mean, they're definitely going to regress with the loss of Drew Brees. Michael Thomas, you said like you mentioned, we don't know what's going to happen with him. Um, so I mean, last year, like again, you already mentioned it. Taysom Hill, like he went 2-1, I believe, with the as a starting quarterback while Breeze was out, and Jameis Winston, uh, I would assume would be the starter. I mean, I feel like it would just be a waste of re-signing him if he wasn't going to be, considering you can use Taysom Hill anywhere on the field. Um, so I don't expect them to completely regress and just completely shut down and be one of the worst teams in the league, but I do expect a pretty good regression, and I don't think they're gonna be. I don't think they'll get out of the first round of the playoffs. I think they'll be stuck in the wild card round for at least a year or two.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. My five is the 49ers, who I have at 11-6, same record as the Seahawks. But I just think that as long as they're all healthy this year, everyone's back. I think they, should be able to run it back and have a decent season again, or well, a very good season again. I think that no matter what your opinion is on Jimmy Garoppolo, they can still win with him. And I know that they came out in the last couple of days saying that he's definitely their QB1, at least now. And that's probably good for Trey Lance so he can sit and learn and improve. But I, yeah, they're another team that's very well rounded. And I think that Nick Bosa's back. And I think that overall their team is just going to improve from last year. And again, like you said, I don't think I mentioned this while I was talking about the Seahawks, but the NFC West is going to be crazy. You, it's not out of the realm of possibility that all 4 teams could make the playoffs. So,
Yeah. I have the 49ers at 5 as well. I mean, uh, I'm at 12-5. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo, like you said, they can still win with him. They proved it 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. Um, I think he'll start for the entirety of the season. Um, like we've already mentioned twice already, like the NFC West is so good. Like you really don't know who's going to win it at this point. Like it could be any of the 4 teams, and that's probably the only division where we have no clear cut winner of the division with through, and it could be like all 4 of the teams winning it. Like it's just crazy. Um, but they had the injury bug last season, which sucked because they could have been one of the best teams in the league, and now they're getting all those injury guys that were injured back. Like you'll have George Kittle. You said Bosa's back. Um, like all those guys that they lost to injury last year and pretty much ruin their entire season. Like they'll be back, and hopefully they don't get hit with the injury bug this year, because that was pretty brutal what they went through last year.
Yeah, even as a Seahawks fan, it was kind of tough to watch because they basically just all fell apart
Yeah,
like 1 week,
yeah,
1 or 2 weeks where everyone was injured. But my four is the football team, who I have going 9-8. I think that their defense is it's probably my favorite defense in the NFL. I think that it's probably going to be the best. Their front seven is just so good, and their secondary is also like pretty good when you look at it. I think that you know I think that their offense is probably going to be a little shaky. Like this was kind of what they were last year, but their offense is probably not going to look like a great playoff offense. But I think their defense is just that good. I think that even a subpar offense, like like they have, like I think it'll be better than last year. Obviously, like not by a ton, but it'll definitely be better. And their defense is probably also just going to get even better. And I just think that they're my definitely my favorite team out of the NFC East.
yeah. That was the thing I had, is I think their defense definitely carried them to that the playoff spot they had last year, and I think it would have to be the defense again this year. And again, like their defense is it's probably the best in the NFL. But now that Dak is back and healthy, I just can't see anyone else winning the division. And because the NFC East is so bad, I don't think anyone else is gonna the make the wild card. I have the Washington football team at 8-9, and I don't, like, again, defense insane, and I think that's going to be the reason why they're winning those games. And I just don't think it's going to be enough to push them over that that border, I guess, into the playoffs. But my four is the Packers, and we did this assuming that the Packers had Aaron Rodgers. I have them at 11-6. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers was the MVP last year. He looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Um, they still unhappy with his situation, and I think he is gonna end up playing with them this year. They got Randall Cobb back, so they have Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Aaron Jones in the backfield. So the offense is still good. The defense is it's looking the same as last year, pretty much. Um, yeah, I think it's gonna be a pretty mediocre year, and like 11-6 for what they're going through. I think that is pretty good for this team. So I think there's definitely a possibility that they don't even make the playoffs with all the uh, you know drama going on in the locker room. So I
Yeah,
think,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, okay. Well, I was just gonna say I have the Packers at 3 too. I mean, well, you said you had them for. They're my three at 11-6, and I think hopefully they don't let that really get in the way, like all the shoot, they don't let the Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams situation get in the way or distract them. Hopefully they can, just play good team ball. And I think that they definitely have the talent to be one of the better teams in the NFL. And I mean, obviously, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, um, and then their defense is also still really good. And I think that I think that talent wise they could hang with the two teams that I have in front of them. But I just think that like the Aaron Rodgers situation is impossible to ignore. He's definitely going to have teammates who think like, oh, he doesn't believe in us, or he doesn't want to be here, and he's really supposed to be the leader for that team. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with everything you said. Um, my three is Dallas. I have them at 12-5, and I think that Dak coming back. I mean, they were looking like one of the best teams in the league before his injury, and I think him coming back. I think they're gonna be one of the more shocking teams this year, and this could be another. Comes back to bite me in the ass at the end of the season, but I really just think that they're going to be a good team. They got Micah Parsons in the draft, so I mean, defense was improved. He's great linebacker. Um, but yeah, I mean, C.D. Lamb, Mari Cooper, like the wide receiver core is really good over in Dallas, and I think Dak's going to be able to take advantage of that, and I think they can be one of the best teams in the league this year.
yeah, I agree that they could be. I don't know if I'm remembering wrong, but I thought that even when Dak was there, I think he was looking like one of the best QBs in the league, but the team still wasn't looking great. If I remember right, he was throwing for like 500 yards a game, and they were still losing. It, like that, I don't know if that's. I might be remembering wrong. I remember the one Falcons game, but
Yeah,
then
I
yeah. So
think so. They lost. They went. No, you're right. You're right. So they went 2-3. So I was remembering wrong. I do remember Dak playing good. That's kind of what I meant, but at the same time
yeah,
I didn't. But yeah,
Dak was really really good before his injury, and then the team was still not winning though.
yeah, yeah,
And I still don't know if I the Micah Parsons pick, like I like Micah Parsons. I don't know if it was really the right pick for them because linebacker is really not their biggest need on defense. But I think that I just don't see how they've improved all that much from last year. Like at the beginning of the year, obviously, I'm talking about when Dak was there. I don't know if they're going to be all that much different from the team we were seeing in the beginning of the year.
yeah. I mean that is fair. I think if Dak can, I don't know, maybe that whole leg injury, maybe there's something like Alex Smith last year, like maybe the team like rallies behind this guy, and you know some spark happens, and all of a sudden they're in the playoffs. So I mean, again, another one of those like Raiders esque picks that could come back later in the year. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, well, my two is the Bucks. Um, obviously they brought everyone back basically from last year, and I I don't really see why they get any worse. And they could get a little bit better with the growth from the young guys they have. But I think they also have some old guys who could regress a bit, young guys who could grow a bit. They're probably going to be at about the same level. But I think the league is just getting better and better, and a lot of teams improved this offseason. So I don't know if the same level is going to be enough to win this year.
yeah, I agree. I have the Buccaneers at 2 as well. So I'm pretty sure we have the same top two for the NFC as well. I have the Buccaneers at 13-4. They re-signed everybody. So I mean, I just don't see them getting any much worse. I don't see them getting any better. I think they'll be right in that 11-5, like sorry, 11 win, 11 win, 12 win, 13, like in that area. And I think they'll be able to,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't think they'll make it to the Super Bowl, but you can never. I said it. How many times did I say it last year? Like, you can't doubt Tom Brady. He could, the amount of
Yeah.
times that we said, oh, he's like after they lost like there was a point they lost like four four or five games in a row, right? And
I don't know
like
if it was in a row.
I- whatever it was, there's
Yeah,
times where
yeah.
we were like, like after the Bears lost in week four, whatever it was, like we were like, okay, maybe this is not gonna be the Cinderella story we thought it was gonna be, and then like 3 months later, 4 months later, that they are winning the Super Bowl. So you know,
Yeah, yeah. I, you did say don't doubt Tom Brady like every week last year.
yep,
Uh, but I agree. I don't think they'll regress. Don't think they'll really grow all that much. But yeah, I don't think they'll be able to repeat. But my number one is the Rams, and I think we're really about to see what Matthew Stafford can do. I think he's been underrated for a while because the Lions have really sucked. He's always put up stats, especially when he had Megatron on his team. But I think that he came onto a team where like Jared Goff was not playing fantastic last year, but they got to the playoffs and like their defense is just so good, so solid. Obviously, they have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, so like with some of the most star power you can have on a defense, and I just think that they're I think they're going to be even better than last year, obviously because of Matthew Stafford, but and I think that if he can really deliver on what he's there for, and everyone else can just like stay at a similar level to what they were last year, they can be one of the best teams in the league, in my opinion. So I, yeah, I think that if I had to put my bet on anyone to come out of the NFC West as like the runner, like the ringleader, that's probably who I'd put my bet on.
yeah, I agree. I have the Rams. I have the Rams as the best team in the NFL. I have them at 14-3. And the Matthew Stafford, like that was huge. That was a huge trade. I think that's gonna get them so like pretty like a lot better than they were last year. Not a lot better. They'll be better than they were last year. Um, but you know, you mentioned the defense. Like the defense is one of the best. Like and best in terms of star power. One of the best in the league. Um, and I think there's going to be games that the offense is going to carry the defense. I think there'll be games where the defense carries the offense, and I think it's just going to be an all around like they're gonna they'll be they'll be last year's Chiefs. I think this year. I think there's gonna be no beating. Like it's gonna be pretty tough to beat the Rams.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
All right. So unless you have anything to add, I think we can move on to the non-playoff teams for the AFC, and we'll make this. We'll just go over these quick. We have so for my 8 through 16 in the AFC, I got the Colts at 9-8, Chargers at 9-8, Steelers at 9-8, Dolphins at 9-8, Broncos at 8-9, Bengals at 5-12, Jaguars at 4-13, Texans at 3-14, and Jets at 3-14. And really, like if I had to highlight those a few teams, I would say like the Texans 3-14. They're not gonna have Deshaun Watson, I don't think. And even if they did, I don't see them doing much better than that because they'll similar to Aaron Rodgers. They're gonna have all that drama brewing in the locker room, and the Texans all around team is not as good as Green Bay's is at all. So so that hurts as well. Bengals we mentioned already. Like I don't think they're quite ready to be in that fight for the AFC North. Um, Broncos and Dolphins both teams that I thought were gonna be like playoff caliber this year. Maybe like Broncos, they don't really have a QB. Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock aren't like top tier QBs that you'd want to have running your team. The Dolphins, you know, I I don't know. I really just thought that Ryan Fitzpatrick was like kind of that, I guess, the energy for that team, and now that he's gone, I don't know how they're gonna do. And then, yeah, I mean, we already talked about the Chargers, Steelers, and Colts, so
Yeah, I have the Patriots at 9-8, the Dolphins at 9-8, the Steelers at 8-9, the Bengals at 6-11. I do not know why my eyes just skipped over both of these teams, but the Raiders at 8-9, the Broncos at 7-10, the Jaguars at 5-12, and Texans at 2-15. Um, just for quick highlights, I guess. Oh, I didn't see the Jets at 4-13, but I think that the Broncos are really just a QB away. That's all they need. The Bengals are just growing. The Jaguars, I think, could do a lot better than I rated them. I just think that it's Trevor Lawrence's first year, so I don't want to make too bold of a take, but their offense is pretty well put together. They definitely still need some pieces, but I still think it's still going to be decent. Um, the Dolphins, like at 9-8, they're probably similar to last year. They'll be like vying for the playoffs for a while, but just miss them. I think Tua will be better this year. Um, the Patriots, another team that was very close to the playoffs. We already talked about them though. The Jets, I don't think they're going to be that good. Obviously, they have a rookie QB who he's not my favorite really in the first place. The Steelers are going to regress, and uh, we already talked about the Raiders too. So
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, pretty similar. Like the Dolphins, we kind of both had the Patriots in that lower end, like 9, 10 wins. NFC, I have the Cardinals at 9-8, Washington football team at 8-9, Falcons at 7-10, Vikings at 6-11, Panthers at 6-11, Eagles at 5-12, Bears at 5-12, Lions at 5-12, and the Giants at 2-15. And again, quick highlights um, Bears and Lions. Lions aren't don't like they haven't been able to win with I don't think Jared Goff's gonna help them one bit, and that defense it's good, but they just haven't been able to put it together with the game plans that they have. The Bears, obviously, I got Justin Fields, rookie QB. I don't think maybe I think you could stretch them into the 8 win, like 7, 8 win mark, but I just don't think that. I think it's going to be Andy Dalton to start with, and then they're just kind of going to throw in Justin Fields, similar to what the Dolphins did with Tua last year. And I just don't think it's going to work for them. Eagles at 5-12, I just don't think that's going to. All the hype around Jalen Hurts, I just don't think, similar to Justin Herbert, I feel like he's going to have so much expectation, and I don't think he's going to be able to pull through. Panthers, they got Sam Darnold. I just don't think that he is much of an obviously I think he's a better quarterback than Bridgewater was, but I don't think he's going to be able to bring the Panthers to the playoffs. You know, like I don't think he's going to
yeah,
be that QB that's oh, we got a QB now. Obviously it's a start, but I just don't think that's going to work. Falcons lost Julio. And then we already kind of talked about the Washington football team, and then the Cardinals are, like they're gonna be right on that edge. Another NFC West, you never know what's gonna happen with those four teams. So yeah,
yeah. Well, I have the Cardinals and the Vikings at 9-8, the Bears at 8-9, the Falcons and Panthers at 7-10, the Lions and Giants at 6-11, and the Eagles at 5-12, and I forgot to say the Cowboys at 8-9. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that the Lions, I really like their draft. I think they're they're heading in the right direction, but they're not there yet, obviously. I think that the Falcons are probably just going to be around the same area as last year. Like, I mean, Julio was injured for a lot of it, so I don't know if the loss is going to affect them. If I remember right, I think he was injured for at least a portion of it. I don't remember if it was a lot, but I don't know if his effect from this year, I mean, from last year to this year is going to be huge. Panthers, I think, will be a bit better overall, just because I think that Sam Darnold, like with a team that actually has given him some pieces, like that could be pretty good. We already talked about the Cowboys, the Eagles. I I don't really know what to expect from them. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to really like surprise anyone. I think he's just kind of going to be if I had to guess. The Giants are 6-11. They have a very solid defense, and I think I said this like around the draft or something. But if I were the Giants, this would be I would be giving Daniel Jones his last chance right now, because I just think that really like I don't think he has showed any sign of really being their guy. You know, I just don't think that I don't think they should give him too long because they have a decent core building there. Then the Cardinals, like you said, I think they're going to be right on the edge, but with like the young great QB that Kyler is, who really knows what'll happen? Like they could be better, definitely. The Bears, I just feel like their team is solid. I think they're going to be solid. I don't think they're going to be great or anything.
Yeah.
The Vikings, I also had just missing out on the playoffs, and yeah, I don't have too much to say on them because they didn't lose too much. But Daniil Hunter is back. I think he was injured for like all of last year, and he's like a really big piece on their defense. And I think they'll be a solid team that just misses out on the playoffs, but keeps it competitive in their games.
Yeah. If I had to like say add anything, I would say Giants. Like the Daniel Jones take, I did like. Like I have him at 2-15, so that puts him at the number one pick for next year. So, I mean, it really depends on how Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler play this season. But I mean, you could take one of those guys with the number one pick. I mean, I don't think. I think Daniel Jones. He hasn't been great. I mean, you've been able to win games with him, but if he's not able to push you over like I would say over 500, I would say it's not gonna work. And it's time. It's at that point it's time to move on because now you're wasting Kenny Galladay, you're wasting Sterling Shepard, like Saquon Barkley, like all those guys' careers are just gonna be down the toilet because you don't have a quarterback that can win games. So
Yeah, yeah.
all right. So now, I mean, if like we can pick two teams from each conference, like what two teams from each conference do you think are gonna surprise, like be the most shocking team this year?
All right. I'll just do first one from the AFC. I have the Jaguars, and I think I hinted a little bit at this earlier, but like if Trevor Lawrence just puts it all together immediately, like I think a lot of people are expecting him to. Maybe that's definitely an unfair expectation for a rookie, even if it is Trevor Lawrence. But like they have a very solid offense there. Like they could compete with some very good teams with the offense. Obviously, their defense is just, in my opinion, besides like Josh Allen, they're just really not there yet. Like that. is nowhere near like a competitive team's defense, but their offense is very solid. And like I have them at 5-12. I could see them hovering around 500 if like Trevor Lawrence comes just as good as he was advertised, and everyone plays their part perfectly. Probably a little lower than 500 even in that situation, but I think that they could definitely be a lot better than I was rating them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I just don't think that the Jaguars. I just don't expect them to do what everyone thinks they're gonna do. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is gonna be like an instant, um, I guess, superstar. Like I think he's gonna be good. I think he'll be a great quarterback, similar to Justin Herbert. I think he'll be able to come in, win some games, but overall they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose most of them. Most of them probably will be close. I just
Yeah.
don't think they're going to be able to really put any playoff push together next year. Um,
Yeah, I definitely think that Justin Herbert and like Justin Jefferson and stuff have really spoiled us from like what to expect from rookies.
yeah,
Like you can't just expect them to be like instant all pros like when they get into the league.
yeah, yeah. If I had like my two, like Dolphins and Broncos were the two I have circled. Um, I think they can both do better than we expect. Like you said, the Broncos are a QB away. Maybe Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, like one of those guys, whoever the starter is, like maybe they turn out to be. Maybe they have a really good season this year. And if that's the case, then you could put the Broncos in the 10-win range, 11-win range. Dolphins, same thing. If Tua shines, same thing, 10-11 win range, and it's really just down to what happens with the quarterback situation. Obviously, the Dolphins are looking. They're probably going to lose Xavier Howard, who's one of the best corners in the league, so that hurts a lot. But the linebacker core is good, and if they are able to keep Xavier Howard, that's your secondary is good as well. So it's really
Yeah,
gonna come down to the QB situation for both those teams.
yeah. I really don't see either of Broncos QBs surprising you, but like if they do, I do agree. Like they could be a very good, very scary team. And the Dolphins, I like. I guess we're really going to see just how much Xavier Howard, um, like just how much he really provided to that team.
Yeah,
But my other surprise from the AFC was the Patriots. Um, so this one was kind of funky for me because I really think that around the 500 is probably like what I've been seeing lately. But I think they could really surprise in either direction. Like they could be a lot worse or a lot better.
yeah,
A lot on QB play, and also just like how everything that happened this offseason, like all the crazy signings, how everything sticks together. Like I feel like they're just in general kind of like a hard team to pin down how good they're really going to be.
yeah. Um, yeah. So moving on to the NFC, like if I like they're, I would say Cardinals and football team. I guess like like you could really pick any of the NFC West teams. Again, like mentioned it so many times already, but any of those teams they could surprise in pretty much either direction. The Rams 14-3, they could be a lot worse than we'd expect. I'm going the Cardinals because I don't have them in the playoffs, and I think might surprise people to see them get into the playoffs, maybe even win the division. So I'd say Cardinals there, and then the football team, like I mentioned, like their defense definitely won the majority of the games they won last year, and if they can have good like offensive play, then that win percentage is gonna skyrocket pretty much. And I think you could see them. getting in there maybe like 11, 12 wins this season if that happens.
Yeah. So my two are the Cardinals and the Vikings. I have the Cardinals on there, but not for the same reason. When I asked you if you meant like surprises in a bad way too, I meant this team. I like I think that they could definitely like last year I they were very good. I think they even led the NFC West for a tiny bit, but they really just fell apart and obviously they did some things to improve, but I just kind of have like a funky feeling about them. I don't really know if like they definitely improved. I don't know if they improved in all the right ways though, and I really don't know if they can hang with the other teams of the NFC West. Like I think that a lot of people agree they're pretty clearly the worst. Like I guess you could make a case for the Seahawks since they're so Russell Wilson dependent, but I yeah, I just I don't have a great feeling about them. And then the Vikings, I think could surprise people with how good they are because they had a decent amount of close games last year, and I really think that Daniil Hunter coming back is going to have a big effect on them. Obviously, they have second year like they have two or three two second year corners that was by far their biggest weakness, but like they could come to play. They could be a lot better than they were last year. And if that happens and their defense is back to like that Mike Zimmer defense we're used to, like dominant and just smart, I think that obviously Justin Jefferson in his second year and Kirk Cousins played pretty well last year. I think that could be like a very surprisingly good team that makes it very close, maybe even into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, the Cardinals, like any of the NFC West teams, you could see in either direction. So I mean, that's fair. And then the Vikings, like I mean, that defense is another. Like we're talking about defenses, I think the Vikings have another great defense. And again, it's can they be, you know, can they can they be like the Mike Zimmer defense that it was? What was it, 2017 with the Minneapolis Miracle? Like that was probably the best defense Vikings defense I've seen in the past 6 7 years. So
Yeah,
yeah. Um. All right. I mean, if you do you have anything else to add?
I'm all good.
All right. So now we move on to the last thing in this hour and a half episode of the EFA podcast. The Super Bowl prediction. Uh, this is you, you know last year I think we both had the same prediction for pretty much I want to say it was like every time we did it except for maybe once or twice.
Yeah, I
So
think both of us in the beginning of the year had Ravens Saints.
yep, yep. So is that trend going to change for this year? You do you want to say your AFC team first?
My just the AFC.
Just AFC. Yep.
All right. I think that the Bills are going to make a run at it this year. I think they're going to. I think they'll be able to make it past the Chiefs and just like you know, uh, finally satisfy their crazy fans.
Okay. So we're off to a good start. It's already changed. I have the Chiefs. Um, I just think that the offensive line was a huge part of the Super Bowl loss, and now that they've regained all of that, I just don't think there's going to be any stopping KC again this year, and I think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, and yeah, I think there's going to be a form of vengeance out there for the Chiefs, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I kind of didn't choose the Chiefs because they like I was saying earlier with like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid being together. Like I feel like for a little while they're going to be well. I might as well pick the Chiefs for the Super Bowl again, because they have. I think I'd pretty safely call him the best QB in the league and one of the best head coaches.
Yep.
So, like, it's just kind of who are we going to pick this time? Let's pick the Chiefs. Not to bag on your choice, but
Yeah.
like,
No, but
yeah,
that's like, you know, I guess I compare it to like March Madness, right? Like you never want to pick the best team because that takes the entire that takes all the fun out of it, right?
yeah.
So yeah, no, that I totally understand that.
Well, I'll do my NFC team then.
All right.
Uh, as of now, I have the Rams. I think that just their combination of defense, which we saw last year, even though they had a couple losses like John Johnson and I can't really think of any more, but I think they'll still be very
Cam
dominant.
Akers tore his Achilles.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was talking about the defense for now, but
Oh, okay.
I
All right.
I think that their defense is going to probably be one of the more dominant ones in the NFL again. And then once you add in the fact that like Jared Goff is nowhere near as explosive as Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, like he could completely change how this offense works. It could just be like it could look just so different and so much better. And I think that since they're just so well rounded, I feel like for now they feel like the safest pick for me to make.
Yeah, I have the Rams as well. Um, yeah, I mean you kind of hit on everything. I mean, you know, the defense again, like you're talking. If we're talking about like superstar caliber defense, like first one you'd think of is the Rams, and I think they'll get to the Super Bowl, and they'll be playing the Chiefs, and they'll. It's gonna be the Super Bowl this year. It's gonna be another. It's in L.A., so it's gonna be another home team advantage, and we like that's never happened, and now all of a sudden we're getting it 2 years in a row. If the prediction that we have right now is stands, and I think the Chiefs are going to win it. I think the Chiefs are going to, again, I mentioned the offensive line. They've bolstered that pretty mightily, and I think the Rams may be overwhelmed with all the home stadium with the fans. Matthew Stafford's never been in that situation before, and I think it's going to come down to experience. And I think Patrick Mahomes being there, having been there twice, and just being the overall better quarterback, I would say that the Chiefs are going to win this game.
Yeah. Well, for me, between the Rams and the Bills, I'm gonna have to go with the Rams. I think that Matthew Stafford, like, if he has a Super Bowl, it's just kind of interesting to think about because he really has always had the stat because he's always been one of the best, like, stat outputters in the league. But I think that they're just so well rounded, so well built, so well coached. I don't know if the Bills, who that would be two teams who haven't really been in a Super Bowl situation in a very long time. And I just think that in that situation, when it's not really down to experience, it's like you got to just really try and focus on the skill and well roundedness and like coaching and stuff. And okay, I just realized how dumb I am. The Rams were in the Super Bowl like 2 or 3 years ago, but their team is very different now. So, but Sean McVay has that experience. So, like, I do think that does help them a little bit and makes me even more sure of my pick. I think that the Rams the Rams would probably beat the Bills in the Super Bowl if they're both healthy.
Yeah, and it being in LA, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
All right. So, I think if you're all set, I think we're all set.
I'm all set.
All right. So, that was our 2021 NFL season predictions. Next week we will have the award predictions for like MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, all that. And then the NFL season will be right around the corner at that point. So yeah, well, thank you for listening, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.